Hello my friends, it's me Stark, and what are we going to watch today? A game between Snonk playing with ELO 1000 against Stisnes playing as Cumans with the ELO of 976. So two guys around 100 ELO, and this guy, the one in blue, posted on Reddit asking for some advices on his game. So there I am, I decided to analyze this game. So to start with, we have a Lithuanian versus Cuman matchup. If you are Lithuanian, I think that the core of your game should be cavalry. You should be playing a lot with the cavalry, and especially if possible, getting the relics to boost up their attack. That's the basics of the Lithuanian Civ. You start with extra food, and that allows you to go for very fast ups. So if you want to go for like scouts, you can even go for lower populations. But if you are a lower elo, my friend, just focus on having a solid build. Go for something like population 20, you know, even if you can do it with less, but make sure that you have all the resources available at your disposal so that you have a better feudal age. And his opponent was the Cuman here, and well, the Cuman biggest strength is the 2TC boom, which allows the Cuman player to develop such a leverage on an early stage, and that's very significant. So that's probably what you should be concerned, raiding and attacking the Cuman and denying him from doing that. Apart from that, Cuman can try two other stuff, like they can try to go for some run push on feudal age, but if you're making army, that's not going to be a problem for you, and they can also try to play a more full feudal oriented approach, given the fact that they have cheaper archer ranges, cheaper stables, so it's easier for a Cuman player to like open archers and just transition to scout later, or the opposite as well. Anyway, watching my Lithuanian friend here, there are a few things that he can improve on his game, but he's 1k elo, so I'm not gonna focus on that so much. But especially regarding TC idle time, I don't think that this guy should ever idle the TC, and I think that this is probably what's gonna consume him most of the game. Right now you can see the TC idle time growing, because despite having the resources, he's actually trying to save up to click, so he's just stopped to making vills, and his opponent is doing the same. So you barely can understand how much this is damaging you, but every 25 seconds of TC idle time means that you are one villager behind. One villager on the early game will be collecting resources throughout all the game, which means a lot of resources. So basically, when you are idling your TC, you are losing way too much resources. So that's the first thing that I would try to focus here. Basic stuff, not regarding army composition or anything. Trying to kill all of your hunt and herdables under the TC is also good. He's doing a good job here with the lure. Lure in the past was something that only like pro players would do, and now I can see like 1k elo guys just luring casually, so this is pretty good. But you know what else is better than luring? Killing all of your animals under the TC. Another good stuff here is diversifying your food sources. So instead of having like 12 villagers under the TC, I guess that this guy could have like 10 under the TC and 4 here on the berries already, trying to split off his resources. And right now he's about to go for the loom and click to the next stage. So regarding the Dark Age, those are the main principles that I would actually talk about. Now he just clicked to feudal age. One thing that's very important is do not idle your villagers. So they were just waiting for some deer to appear. I think that they should be taking a ship meanwhile. If you cannot go idle, go there and eat the stagler, go there and eat the ship, but do not idle your villagers. And now there's something that I find a bit inconsistent about this build. This guy who unfortunately couldn't scout because he was way too focused here in his game in order to try and lure, is going towards a second wood to make a lumber camp. So why am I not so comfortable with that approach? So here's the thing, if you go for a very fast up, like 18 villagers only, you might not have enough resources to go for this lumber, especially if you are running around, and especially if you give priority to making a barracks before the lumber camp. So this small mistake is probably gonna cost him a lot of time, because he won't have enough wood to drop this table. So that's also something that I would try to correct. And how would I correct that? Well, if you go for a fast up, just pick the one lumber and you can add a second lumber camp in a later stage of the game. But if you want to play a more solid opening with like 2 lumber camps, go for more population to, on the feudal age. I mean, make like 2 more villagers on Dark Age, and then you won't have this problem. Then you focus in making the lumber camps, and after you are like halfway to feudal age, you make a barracks. So that's a few things that I would do. Right now, what's going to happen to our friend here is that after he reaches feudal age, he still won't have wood to drop stable, to make the wood upgrade, to make more houses, so he's gonna get stuck here for a long time. He just made a house, now he's waiting until he can start making the stable, so basically he could have played with like 2 more villagers on Dark Age and still achieved a similar result. He has a lot of food here, he did collect a lot of food, but despite having all this food, look at the TC. Idle time! No, my friend, quill up villagers. Quill up villagers, especially in a scenario like this, where you have like a tons of resources, you should be quilling up vills, you shouldn't be doing that. And the strategy that he chose to do here are the scouts. His opponent is already on feudal age, and he's already upgrading both wood and horse collar, and only now he's going for the wood, and he's going too early for the gold, and this is gonna cost him a lot here. I'm gonna explain why. I think that in the beginning, if you're going for a scout opening, just focus on getting farms around your town center. Use all the wood you have available to drop farms. If you decide, for some reason, that honestly I don't know which would be, I'm sorry, to go for archers, then you go for the gold. If you decide that you want to go for skirmishers, then perhaps you add a few more to the wood. But if you are just going to play scouts, my friend, do not do that. You are just going to start banking up gold, and at some point you are going to have like 300 or 400 gold, and you will be lacking food in order to go to the next stage. So my advice here for a basic build would be 10 on the wood and go to the food until you have like 18 villagers right here. So basically what I'm saying is farm until you have like 18 villagers on food. You might have at some point like 14 farmers and 4 guys on the berries, and then after that you go for the gold. That would be my basic advice, okay? That's a very basic or some good number for you to keep in mind, because you know, in the way this is going, this is probably gonna delay him a lot. Another small mistake is that he was messing up way too much scouts before sending them forward. We are talking about a game of feudal age, and it's almost 14 minutes and he haven't attacked his opponent. In my opinion, what this means? It means that if his opponent wanted to go, for example, for a fast castle strategy, he would have suffered 0 damage so far. So he could be already on the castle age right now after suffering 0 damage. So what I mean by that is, if you are going for a feudal rush, if you are going for army, you need to attack. You need to get your army as soon as you have it and send to the enemy base. So that's the coherency that I feel like it's necessary when you do this kind of plays. If you invest into army, you got to use the army. That's basically it. That's something that I would try to focus. So I have army, I have to use it. Nothing more than that. But he is using, and he's doing a very good job here with the ratings. He's actually with 7 scouts already, and his eco is still running strong. But the main mistake here is the idle time. At the same time that he goes there and kills a villager, he kills one of his own villagers because he's idling the TC. He's not producing villagers. So basically, all the advantage that this guy should have, he doesn't. He kills a vill and then he loses one to himself. So TC idle time is surely something to address, and I cannot stress that enough. He should be making villagers non-stop. Now talking about the macro game here. He's already going for the blacksmith, so he's probably planning to click up or to upgrade his scouts. But the thing is, he has not enough food here in order to go to the next stage. You need to invest early on farms. The earlier you invest, the earlier you are going to have the food to click up. And now an upgrade that I wouldn't consider doing here, bloodlines. I mean, if I was fighting army versus army in a very intense matchup, bloodlines could make all the difference for my scouts to be stronger than the opponents. But for what he's doing, which is just raiding, I think that's completely unnecessary to go for the bloodlines. All he needs here is to focus on raiding and killing villagers that are out of the TC range, like he's doing. So having like bloodlines doesn't add up to that. Instead, I would just not make this upgrade right now and wait after I click into Castle Age to start upgrading my scouts. So I wouldn't go for like a full feudal against a guy that's booming with 2 TCs. Anyway, this is going on. He's also walling. There's one villager here that is making like all the walls for this guy, and this is actually pretty good. That's a pretty decent. That's a good habit. If you just make one of your villagers to become a builder very early on, it means that during the game you are gonna be protecting yourself, making houses, making walls. Thus, this is gonna make it harder for your opponents to counter raid you once they are in the next stage. So far so good. There goes the things. Now he's adding more farms, and as you can see guys, it's very common mistake that you try to compensate by doing like way too much farms because you just feel, oh my god, I need to hurry up, I need to go to the castle age. So often players are going to go for like 20 farms, 30 farms, things like that. Man, that's not the way. The way is doing the farms early on. Right now, exactly what I told is happening here. This guy has like 400 gold on the bank, but he's still not capable of clicking to the next stage because he is very low on food. So he's just focusing on a resource that he doesn't need. He's doing some ratings. Bloodlines is saving the scouts, but the problem here is it's not like you need bloodlines. You just shouldn't be taking this amount of risks. You should just be running around trying to snipe villagers. There are plenty of villagers that are outside of the TC range, like the berry ones, like these ones that are trying to run and drop the food here towards the mill. These ones that are on the edge of farms. It's easily for you to come here with scouts, kill this villager and leave while receiving very low damage from the town center because you are very far from it, and the villager will most likely not be able to run towards the TC. So this is a good target. Good target, good target, good target. Just get your scouts and run around, and you're just gonna force idle time on this guy. Instead, he's trying to dive here into the wood and trying to attack villagers that are very protected by the town center. So I don't think that the raiding targets are the best here. You could be choosing better raiding targets, but that's just a small mistake. So far, I think that the biggest issue, in my opinion, is regarding the uptimes here. And you know, once again, idle time. So right now we have like almost 3 minutes of idle time. You know what's the meaning of that? The meaning of that is pretty simple. This guy is like 6 vill less than he should be. I mean, he could have like 6 or 7 more villagers, and if you look at the villager count, this would be enough for him to be ahead of the Cuman player. So basically, idling the town center has cost this guy 7 villagers on feudal age. So that's insane. Now he's investing into an archer range, so it seems to me that his plan is to switch into Cav Archer, but he also has a second stable. So actually some coherency here is needed. I mean, if you want to go for Cav Archers, go for like double range at least and start upgrading the Cav Archer. If you want to go for knights or light cavalry, just keep your 1 or maybe 2 stables in this case. And he's also trying to reinforce the walls and get more of the map for himself, but he's still pretty open. Acropolis is not so easy to wall. I think that it's better for you to just try to make a small wall on your mainland like you did here, and then later just do some small palisades around the resources, which you can later protect with resources, castles and other structures. But this wall, for example, it doesn't add anything regarding the protection. Knights here could still go around and kill the wood villagers, for instance. Alright, so we are about to reach the next stage. He's heavy on stone, so he can go for like a castle. The problem that I see here is that the guy is trying to do everything. He goes for an archer range, he goes for knights, he goes for stone, which he can use to produce a castle. But choose one, guy. Just choose one. Choose Cav Archers, choose knights, choose lighties. If you try to do a mix of everything, you are just not gonna be specializing your army, and you cannot keep up with the production and the army control of everything. So just try to play a single army here, and just add a second one in case you need a counter. I mean, just play knights. And if you need to counter like pikemen, then you consider adding something else, like a scorpion, like Cav Archer, or just play like Cav Archers. And if you need something later, you can go there and play knights or play lighties or whatever. So that would be my small advice here. Just choose an army and stick to it. No reason to get all this stone unless you're planning to drop a castle on the enemy so far. And honestly, after reaching Castle Age, my priorities here would be 1. Making the wood upgrade. Second, making another TC so I could start to keep up with the Cuman in the booming. I mean, you're facing a guy that has 2 town centers. It doesn't matter how much vills you kill, unless you add more town centers to keep up, you are always gonna be behind him. And if you have army like this one, you need to use it. You need to use those resources are not being used. So using these resources is essential here. So that's also something that I would try to focus on. And there we go, the Cuman's booming more, the Cuman is starting to drop more stables. There's plenty of resources here. He's even focusing on knight upgrades. He's going for the attack. I wouldn't go for the attack. That's another thing that I would consider here. I mean, this guy's Lithuanian, so as Lithuanian, by collecting the relics, he would just gain extra attack. So instead, I would actually focus my upgrades here on economical ones, but talking about the military ones, I would focus on the armor, because the armor, like the one the Cuman is doing, would allow me to go there and dive town centers, kill villagers, suffering way less damage from those buildings. So that will significantly change the effectiveness of knights other than doing extra attack. Now he's coming forward to drop a castle. Now let's go for a small tip for castles. If you want to drop a forward castle, make sure that you are getting like a forward position, okay? Make sure that you are denying an important resource to your opponent, like a stone, like a gold, and if possible, try to target one of his town centers. By those means, I would say that a perfect or good castle spots would be this spot. This one right here, he could actually deny this whole wood line and also hit the town center, or right there, which we would be able to do the same, but at the same time deny both stone and gold. So you want to try there and get more map control. This castle so far is a very conservative one. It's not like this hill is big enough to justify making it, and basically you are not hitting the town center, you are not denying the minerals, you are not denying the wood. So this castle buys yourself some map control, but it could be a lot better just by moving it a few tiles towards the left or towards the right here, but advancing towards the enemy town center. So that would be my small advice regarding the castles. Now let's talk about resources collected. Your enemy is Cuman, he has more villagers than you. You are both having huge idle times, which is fine at 1k ELO, but honestly, if you just start fixing that, you are just gonna be collecting way more resources because you're gonna have more villagers. You're basically losing villagers to yourself right now. So minimizing the TC idle time should boost this guy's economy towards a 1k4 ELO, just by fixing the idle time and making the upgrades on the correct timing. As for the Cuman, I have to say, he has the second wood upgrade, and he also has like handcart, which means that right now his economy is way more effective than player blue. So at some point I expect the army output from the Cuman to be better if he actually translate all these extra resources into army. So that's very necessary. Those knights are upgraded, they have a lot of attack. What do I feel that is lacking here? To use them, to go there, to raid, to force fights. And of course, if you need to fight against the Cuman and the Cuman is going for like camels, once you realize that, you can add counters to the camels, like the pikemen, like the monks. So basically that's the idea, just force your army and then go for the counter in case you need some help. Right now, a lot of army, but it's not being used. That's a constant during all the game. A lot of army that just stays idle here, not dealing any damage, not killing any building. I mean, he could have placed the castle forward and be using the knights here to eat out the houses or other buildings. At least that could be done. Now the knights are finally raiding, which is great. He spots several stables from the Cuman. The Cuman's gonna make his move to defend at some point. So once you realize you're against camels, just run. Get closer to their castle and consider transitioning here into some other army. Uh-oh, there are the camels from the enemy. Run, my friend, run! Very good. Run towards the castle. If you fight under the castle, you can win the camels. They are very fragile units against, so that was a very good run, that's important. But both players are truly going idle a lot here on their TCs. Cuman is on the way to Imperial Age, and he cannot upgrade camels to heavy camels, they have no access to it. He could upgrade any other stable units, but not the camels. So as time goes by, these camels are going to decrease their effectiveness, and other units should actually be better. Whoa, game just got stuck here, guys. Uh-oh, game got fully stuck. Alright, game is running. Game is finally running back. Another castle here in the center, so he's actually controlling the wood lines and getting some map control of the castles. A bit more of conservative castle, but that's okay. That's not a problem. I mean, this map also has a lot of wood concentrated here in the center, so if he can just keep these castles at some point, things would be good for him. Oh my god, where's Capture Age? Sorry guys, I messed up. Where's Capture Age? Damn it. What? Oh, sorry. I was just trying to run things during the game. Had a big freeze and... I'm so sorry, I'm such a noob regarding the Capture Age. But there we are, back on the Capture Age. What? Why am I going upwards? And there is it. There's the Lithuanian. A lot of ratings, a lot of stuff. One thing that I'm lacking is that this guy is not producing villagers. I'm gonna give some magic numbers if you want to fix your economy for the later stages. Try to go for at least 120 vills. I think that this number is great. If you try to reach 120 vills, this will actually provide you enough economy for you to fight during most of the game. So my advice for this guy here would be try to keep making villagers instead of going idle time. That advice could actually be great for both players. But just keep making the villagers until you have like 120. Go for the eco upgrades. I mean, go for the handcart. It will just boost your economy and the resources that you are collecting. Other than going for the Lighties and the Pikemen, which are actually a great comp, I don't think that there's any mistake here on this comp. Going for Lights and Pikemen will solve like most of your problems. Just go there and upgrade his army. Why can't this guy upgrade his army? Well, because his economy is not strong enough as he needs. And look at this fight. This fight's terrible. I need to comment on this fight. He's getting attacked by trebuchets, so he wants to attack the trebuchets. But as he moves towards the trebuchets, the Cuman moves his camels, so the camels are gonna start facing the Lighties, and that's terrible. And the pikemen that should be going there to try and counter the camels are actually going to the other side and will just be fighting against the enemy pikemen. So this is a perfect fight for your enemy. His pikemen are just buying time, and his camels are being used against your Lighties that are not yet upgraded. In my opinion, that's a terrible fight. What you should have done was not taking that fight. Retreat. Even if you lose the castle, it doesn't matter. You can go and make a castle on the back. And then after you go to the Imperial Age, you could upgrade your Lighties, you could upgrade your pikemen to halberdiers. So this fight was very unnecessary. You basically lost all your army and you barely touched the trebuchets. So one thing that you could have tried to do was sniping the trebuchets. Basically getting a small group of Lighties, like 8 or 10, going around, trying to beat the trebuchets to kill them and then go back. That could actually save the castle with a minimum amount of losses and not fully committing in this fight. This was everything the Cuman wanted, to be able to use his camels before they got obsolete on the game. And honestly, this was terrible because your army was not close together, the pikemen were not aiming on the camels, so a lot of mistakes, and this was probably a bad fight. I honestly consider your army to be better, and your army would also scale a lot more than the Cuman one once you were able to get to Imperial Age and upgrade it. And the castle went down anyway, so you could be having a similar situation of your castle going down, but you could be here at your home, messing up more villagers, messing up more army, getting ready to get the upgrades. So that's also something that I would change. So it's not a matter of composition, but why to take that fight, why to engage on that fight, you know? And there he goes for another castle, that's okay. There's something that I find a bit curious. He started to add archer ranges, but honestly Cuman was playing with pikemen and cavalry. I would actually have thought about going for halbs first. I mean, halbs could do a very significant damage here to this Cuman composition. Only later I would think about adding some kind of ranged unit. And of course, if he still had the Lighties, that would make sense. He could try to play like Lighties and Hand Cannoneer, which is probably one of the strongest compositions from the Lithuanian. Now, let's talk about good stuff. The guys are actually trying to make a big wall here. on a stone wall. I think that this is great. That's a very good practice. You should try to make a wall like this, especially for Imperial Age. You can minimize the impact of ratings. The one bad thing here are the villagers. I honestly would aim at having at least 120 views, and by the time I'm on Imperial Age, sorry, I would have at least 50 farmers. I think that 60 farmers is a great number for you to aim towards Imperial Age, because with 60 farmers you will be able to keep producing like Hussars and Halberdiers through all the Imperial Age. So you can even win your opponent by exhaustion, by constantly floating army into him, you know? That's actually very effective. But with this amount of food, if this guy loses a fight and the Cuman raid him, he'll probably be food starved and won't be able to keep producing army. Now there's a fight against the enemy Paladin, Halberdier against Paladin. The one thing that I'm lacking here is numbers. So the Halberdiers were lacking enough numbers to fight against the Paladin, and also upgrades. As the Cuman Paladins were with had all the upgrades already, your Halberdiers still only had the first armor, so they were not that strong. And there goes, started to mass both hand cannoneers and halbs. That's also a good composition. I think that hand cannoneers and halbs is a great comp. Great comp for in most cases, in most scenarios. The only thing that he could add up to that composition later on was a few bomber cannons, and perhaps think about transitioning into the winged Hussar from the Lithuanians. But I don't think there's a big mistake on this composition. The hand cannoneer are an overall high DPS unit. Their weakness here is getting smashed down by way too much melee army, which was the case of the Cuman, but of course massing halbs could actually counter that. One thing that you could be doing here that would be a lot better to fight was creating artificial choke points, so making buildings like houses, barracks, even wall segments where you could actually clutch your army there and get them all grouped together. So create small artificial choke points to make it harder for your opponent to beat you using melee units. That would also be very helpful. I mean, place some gates there, place some walls, just make something, some alterations to the terrain that can make it better for a hand cannoneer to fight. Missing to invest into new lumber camps, hand cart around 51 minutes. You could have done that like a lot sooner, and honestly you should be pumping up army non-stop. On this stage of the game, I actually expect you to be making like halberdiers from like 5 to 6 barracks, but non-stop. Not like, oh, I'm gonna make 4 on each barracks and then I'm gonna chill. No man, don't chill. Just keep boosting your production line. More halbs, more halbs, more halbs, more Hussars, more Hussars, more Hussars, more elite skirmishers, more elite skirmishers, more elite skirmishers. Just keep up a huge production and this will probably win you the game. The Cuman was just messing and healing up his game. He had some trebuchets, he was attacking. Game got a bit soft here. You had the walls, so raidings would be a lot less effective, because if the enemy wanted to raid, he would have to go through your army because you were fully walled. So this wall was actually a great thing you did here regarding the later stages of the game. And now you started to play with bomber cannons. Small advice about bomber cannons. 3 bomber cannon shots can take down a trap, so you could go there on this fight, move your hand cannoneers a bit forward so that the bomber cannons can actually go and have a walkable terrain ahead of them, and then you snipe the trebuchets. 1, 2, the third shot will take it down. 3. Now shoot another one. 1, 2, 3. Another tip is do not shoot them while on standing still. Keep walking. That was a very good move by the Cuman, being able to snipe here the bomber cannons, but this is actually cost him like all of his army, because you were just constantly hitting him with both halberdiers and hand cannoneers. So just do more hand cannoneers and you are going to be able to advance. Hand cannoneers are a great tool, especially to snipe enemy siege, such as trebuchets, onagers, scorpions, but you also need to keep making trebuchets, because trebuchets would deal a lot more damage and from the distance, so they could also be helpful to push. The cannons are good, but they deal less damage than a trebuchet, so not only do the bomber cannons, but if possible also make trebuchets. The fights were going okay. The only thing that I'm missing here is a better production line. I mean, having like 6, 7, 8 barracks and all of them with like a big quill of units being produced. Aim to go towards like 200 population. You have a lot of accident food. Already start upgrading the other units that you want to make on the game, like the Hussar. And there goes the enemy, and he's trying to go for elite keep checks. Elite keep checks are great unit, but they are also fragile somehow. There they come, trying to snipe the bomber cannons. They are going to be able to snipe the bomber cannons before they took way too much damage here. If the keep checks are actually pretty decent against your composition, they have mobility, so they can run instead of being attacked by the halbs, but I guess your opponent is going to have some difficulties to use them. So a constant spam of halberdiers, more bomber cannons, and more trebuchets would make it very difficult for the keep check to snipe. A cannon dies quite easily to a keep check. A trebuchet, well, it's going to shoot from a longer distance, and it will also resist a bit more. So whenever the Cuman try to go there and kill the siege to buy time, like he's doing here with these bomber cannons, he would have less success if you had trebuchets as well. So a few trebuchets here could add a lot to your game. And by the way, why not going for the winged Russar? On this stage of the game, where gold is almost running off, I think that it would be very valuable for you to go towards 60 farms, drop like a lot of stables, and start making winged Russars as well. So hand cannoneers, halbs, and winged Russars. The hand cannoneers should be going down here. They should be constantly shooting the keep checks. You are about to lose more bomber cannons, but the cost of sniping down those bomber cannons is quite heavy on the Cuman. He's probably wasting more resources than you are, and let's also consider that you had the relics, which was pretty good. So far, I think that you just should keep up with this push, but you should be adding trebuchets. Adding trebuchets here could make a huge difference on how fast you would be able to push the Cuman. So that's the other thing here that I would try to do. The economical upgrades are missing. On this stage you can even consider going for the crop rotation, so that your farms are gonna produce more food, and this would reduce your wood consumption, which means that you are probably gonna need less views on the wood, and which means that you can actually transition some of those views towards the farms and aim on those big number of farms, like 60, like 80. Now the opponent comes and his composition is becoming quite scary. He's having enough keep check to deal damage to you. I guess that you were truly lacking a constant halb production and even some winged Russars to make a front line. Right now, you are about to lose the game because you are getting pushed by a very strong army and you are barely making the units. You are making like very few of them. Look at your opponent quill line of Russars. He has more than 106 Russars on the quill. This means that he will be able to keep producing, keep producing. Meanwhile, despite having like all this food and all this wood and all that gold, I barely see units on the quill. I mean, in the next few minutes, your opponent will never decrease his population from 200. Keep check and Russar is a pretty good composition. I don't feel like the problem here is the army composition. I mean, the hand cannoneer and halberds are pretty good. You are actually doing some good fight, but the problem is you are both losing units on these fights, but your opponent is replacing them because he's constantly using his resources. Meanwhile, you are banking up. And you shouldn't be banking up. You should be using these resources. You should be doing like 10 barracks, 10 stables, and spamming. Similar to what this guy is doing. I think that he got the right idea about Imperial Age and how to use the resources. So right now, you start to make the units, you start to spam, but by the time you start spamming the units, you shouldn't have stopped making hand cannoneers. You shouldn't have stopped making halbs. Since you stopped it, at some point this guy just flowed your economy with all his army, and right now, man, despite your side walls, the core of your economy is under attack. This guy can get his Russars and split on your farms, and this is just generate a snowball effect. Also, another good thing that he's doing is he just selling a lot of trash resources, like he's just selling like food and wood, and this is providing him extra gold, which can actually use to produce more keep checks, more siege, and there goes the snowball. Your attempt at defending the farms was pretty good, but honestly on that stage, walls alone won't do it. What you really need is army. You are making like no halbs against the core unit of your opponent, which are the Russars. I think that if you had like 8 barracks, something like 7 or 8 stables constantly producing Russars, and if you're aiming at an economy of like 60 farms at least, you should be good. So basically, that's my call regarding that game. Waiting for players, game paused. Is the game over? Did you resign here? I'm a bit... I don't know if it's capture age. Well, game is over. I'm gonna consider that over. So that's my overview. Damn capture age. I don't know how to use that. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you can learn something from these games. It was not a bad game. I don't think there was a problem regarding the army composition. I think that actually the problem was the macro behind it, the idle time on the early stages, and not making like a huge queue up of units like your opponent did. I mean, he had like 4 castles producing keep checks non-stop. He had a lot of stables producing Russars non-stop, and he also had steppe husbandry, which actually forces his stables to produce faster, which allows his stables to produce faster. So there was a lot of stuff that were actually helping him. Hope you enjoy it, hope you learned something from this game, and hope this analysis can be helpful for you and for everyone else watching. So every player that if you're committing similar mistakes, try to fix them in the way I was just telling. See you guys.